Is a 2-bedroom rental apartment really 3,000 euros a month?
Can you buy a nice home in Portugal for less than 500,000 euros?
How much does a week's worth of groceries cost for a couple like us?
And how much money does a foreigner living in Portugal need to survive comfortably? Amelia, we moved to Portugal in 2018.
We did.
And how have the landscape of grocery shopping changed?
It's almost a double for us. When we moved to Portugal, of course we ate out quite a lot, but when we shopped for a week, we would shop for around 100 euros, and that was actually with wine. Now we cook all meals at home, we don't drink alcohol, and the other day I spent 240 for a week's worth of food.
How much food is this for us?
I would say this is a week plus, maybe 8 days. Most of the things here are organic.
And if this was the cheapest of the cheapest you picked, if you picked the cheapest option for each,
For everything?
how much would you think it would cost instead of what you paid?
Probably half.
And this was me grocery shopping alone the other day, and here you get a breakdown of what random shit costs.
We're expecting a storm, so our balcony does not look very intriguing today.
But normally we go out, and we have gone out to eat a lot here.
Like a lot. And we do prefer to eat out where we feel like the ingredients, the quality of the ingredients are high, which sometimes also reflect the price. Because you can go to some places and you can get a full lunch plate with a drink for 7.5, 8 euros. We don't go to the cheapest of the cheapest, but Jon and I can go out at our favorite chicken place and we can have a chicken dinner with wine for 40 euros, which is pretty good.
Probably 50 now, if you need a bottle of wine.
Yeah, maybe.
So we live here in Madeira, and many of the prices we're talking about in terms of groceries and eating out is based on Madeira. But I think Madeira is very much equivalent to the main hubs like Lisbon, Porto and Algarve. So anywhere beyond those places, it will be cheaper. But let's say we want to go have like sort of a fine dining experience. We go to Lau Fundo. And for me and Amelie, it would be around 80 euros for 2 main courses, maybe a shared starter and a bottle of wine.
I'm literally drooling. Oh my goodness.
That is pretty expensive when you think about what it used to be. I remember when we went out to eat almost every time, just me and Amelie, and that would be with a bottle of wine or at least a couple of glasses of wine in Lisbon, and it would be 25 to 35 euros. So I think that eating out has probably doubled in many aspects. The best example I have is how much is a beer, a pint of beer. And I remember when we came to Lisbon in 2018, I was just so amazed that you could get a big cold pint for 2 euros. This today in Lisbon, Funchal, most places that aren't off-grid, 4.5, 5 euros, sometimes even 7 euros I've seen.
And the same goes for coffee. In Portugal, we have something called a galão. It's basically the Portuguese answer to a latte. And when we moved here, I remember going to our local kiosk and I paid 2.15 euros for a galão. Now we went to Lisbon, we went to a kiosk in Chiado, which is a little more of an expensive area, but still, we paid 4.5 for the same galão. But of course, this also depends on where you go to have your coffee. Because even though inflation is high, Portuguese people still don't earn more money, which is very, very sad. But it also means that some places you can still get a bargain. We went to do a video of only spending, I think it was 20 euros.
15 euros.
15 euros a whole day. And we went and we had a bica, and if I don't remember wrong, I think we paid 65 cents for the bica. And this is Delta, the Portuguese coffee.
I think when it comes to cost of living in Portugal, you have ultra budget options and ultra expensive budgets. And that's actually one of the beautiful things about the country. So if you come as a foreigner and you want to take advantage of the cheap way of life, it is possible, but you kind of have to know where to go. You have to look for it. and my God, is the rain coming down.
I have a friend who really likes to go on the very local traditional Portuguese places to eat. And when she has her lunch break, she has like a dourada with salad and potato, which is like a sea bream fish. She has that whole thing plus a drink and a coffee and a cake, and she pays €9 at the local little snack bar.
But that's where I get a little bit suspicious, because then it's farmed fish, you know, which means that it's not top quality.
That's another topic.
That's another topic, but it's just something to keep in mind, that if you want to eat out and have great ingredients, the cheapest solutions won't have the best ingredients. I mean, it's impossible, so it makes sense. So we are going to talk about renting apartments and buying apartments and homes here in Portugal. But first, we're going to talk about utilities.
And you listed that whole thing.
Yes, I can't remember it all, but electricity. So our apartment is a 3-bedroom, quite big apartment. We have AC in all the rooms, but we don't really use it that often.
We don't.
We've actually, this year, we used it for 3-4 months consecutively.
Because it was so freaking hot in Madeira.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that really makes electricity either expensive or quite affordable. So
yeah, I mean, they don't really do central heating in Portugal, so most of the heat also comes from the AC, which means if you live in the colder parts of Portugal, for example in the north, you'll probably be using more electricity because you need to heat up your house.
Yeah. And we pay on average 100 to 120 euros a month.
But we also don't save electricity. The dishwasher runs once a day, the washing machine runs all the time.
We have an industrial ice maker.
Yeah.
And then we have internet. We have epically fast internet. We have 1,000 download, 200 upload, and we pay 54 euros a month. Mobile, we used to have Meo and us, and they would always charge us ridiculously, you know, like the month would always like vary. And
they would never really give us an overview of why it was so much more. If we asked to get an overview, they wouldn't provide us with it.
It would like we would have 10 gigs each per month, and we would pay on average 80 euros a month for both of us.
I remember that it became too much when we went to Denmark for almost a month. And then I didn't use my Portuguese provider at all because I used my Danish provider. And then as we landed in Portugal, it said that I had used all my internet.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's impossible.
There's something wrong there.
Something's wrong.
We changed to Vodafone.
Best decision ever.
And now we're paying 65 euros a month for both of us with unlimited data. But that's also company plan. Then we have car insurance. We have a BMW X1 from 2016 with a pretty big engine, 2.5 liters, so that's more expensive, but we're paying 900 on average. No franquia, which means that we don't pay anything, even if we crash the car. And this happened actually right after we got it, a week after, remember that? And the fucking idiot just left. No note, nothing. I think it was around 2,200 euros to repair that, and we paid nothing.
Yeah.
But it was a nightmare it took a month.
We also have a scooter.
You want to come for a ride? And that's 71 euros a year, and that's the legal requirement that you have. We don't have any other, like if you steal or whatever. We have private healthcare, and it's 64 euros per person. Actually, you can't really get travel insurance in Portugal, which is so mind-blowing. I don't know why, but I think it's because most Portuguese people, they don't really travel beyond Portugal, so the demand for travel insurance is so low that they don't really offer it.
And then we have all the beauty utilities.
That's expensive.
I used to have all sorts of different things done, and especially nails were one of the things that I did do every single month, every third week. And I usually pay around 20 euros on average for a gel cover and to have the nails cleaned up. Also, I used to be blonde, and when I was blonde, I would go to the hairdresser paying like 120 euros to maintain highlights, getting cut, getting masked. Now I only get haircuts and a styling, and I pay around 40 euros for that.
So we've been signed up for gym memberships on and off since we moved here, and that's actually one of the areas that are quite expensive, especially when you compare it with what the locals earn, because here in Madeira, for example, we pay 65 euros a month per person for a gym that is worn down and always cramped with too many people. And I'm like, that's actually more than you pay in Denmark. We have a cleaning lady coming here every week for 4 hours. She's amazing. Normally, she would only charge 7 euros an hour, but we were like, that's not enough. So we pay 10 euros an hour, and that's 40 euros per week we're paying her. And I mean, she's just so effective.
We also have a groomer for Lara. We used to go to a salon with Lara where we used to pay, I think it was 25 to 30 euros for a groom. Now we have an amazing groomer. She comes to our house and she grooms Lara once a month, and we pay 35 euros for her.
Which is amazing.
It's incredible. We come from a country where it's way above 150 euros. So knowing that we get a better job done here, she also doesn't use any chemicals on the dog. She's just amazing. And then she's a good person as well. So we're like very happy to have her.
But again, this is not normal you don't find a person
This is
like...
not normal. And when we asked her, she wanted like promotion in the video so we could mention, she was like, please don't, I'm so busy, I don't have time.
So transportation is another pretty important aspect of living in Portugal. And you know, when we lived in Lisbon, we always used Uber. Like that was our way of getting around, if not with our feet. And one thing that is still very cheap here in Portugal is Uber or Bolt or whatever service you take. I just went to Lisbon where I took an Uber from the airport to Sintra. It's like a 45-minute drive and 20 euros. Taking the bus is of course always super cheap, but we have done that once.
I've done it twice.
Twice. It takes a lot of time, so if you're into that and you think it's an experience, it's not going to cost you a lot. But what is probably more interesting is buying a car. Even if you live in Lisbon and you don't need a car in Lisbon, I mean, you need a car to explore the rest of the country. It's only within 3-4 hours, everything. We have a BMW, and you want to get a diesel here in Portugal because they maintain their value better than gasolines and also EVs. First of all, it's expensive to buy a car in Portugal. Portugal is one of the most tax-heavy countries on cars in Europe. I found a few cars here, but I can tell you, for example, our car, we paid 40,000 euros for it, and our car is from 16. And today, I just went to Stand Virtual, where you buy cars or find most of the cars, and I found our car in blue. I don't know who wants this color, but it's 33,500 euros and it's gone 100,000 kilometers on the odometer. So the point is that cars, they maintain their value very, very well here. I can't even imagine if we could sell our car for 34,000. That's pretty impressive. But let's say you just want a nice car that is safe, it's decent. Here's an Opel Corsa. From 2015, 96,000 kilometers on the odometer, 10,500 euros. I think that's expensive.
Talking about gasoline, what are the prices on gasoline versus diesel?
So that's another one because diesel is a lot cheaper. So here in Madeira, it's much cheaper than on the mainland. We only pay €1.33 right now for a liter of diesel, where a liter of gasoline is €1.60. But on the mainland, a liter of gasoline is almost €2, where a liter of diesel is $1.70, something like that. I just want to give one more example in terms of buying a car. If you want to go all in, if money is not an object, you can get a Mercedes G-Wagon, brand new, Amelia's dream car, 320,000 euros. I found the same model from an American website, just to give you an idea of how much more expensive it is. Same car in America, $230,000. So it's basically 50% more expensive to buy cars in Portugal.
So, is it really 3,000 euros a month for a 2-bedroom rental apartment? We're gonna answer that question.
And the short answer is yes. This is an apartment here in Madeira in Funchal where we live, and rental apartments here on this island are
obnoxious, is the truth.
They're insane. I mean, here's an apartment, and there are a lot of them in this building, but also all the other buildings nearby. And of course, you don't have to pay 3,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. There are cheaper solutions, but if you
they are different. They are very difficult to find, first of all, and when you find them, it usually comes with a price. You can have mold, you might be in a bad area, you have no sunlight. A lot of these things happens.
What we have found, and this is not just on Madeira, but also in Lisbon, in Porto, anywhere, if you want an apartment that is fairly new, no mold, things work, you will have to pay these prices. I don't think you can find a lot under the €2,000 mark, at least not when you are in Funchal, Lisbon, and Porto, Algarve. And we're going to show you a few examples of just how egregious the prices are on rental apartments. Here's an apartment the same size as ours. We're paying €1,800 a month here, which I think is a great deal.
Price.
It's a good price. We're not in the best neighborhood, but the whole apartment is new. We have a wonderful view. We have
everything is working.
Everything is working. We have a private garage sealed off.
This one has everything as well. It is also in one of the best locations on the entire island. I will give it that.
Yeah.
But when you see the price for this property, you're gonna fall back over. Because we're not in New York City or in Paris. We're in Funchal, and here you pay €7,500 for 235 square meters.
And I think what's interesting here is that, I mean, it's an amazing location, the view, and it's really.
And it has been refurbished, it looks, but it's not that beautiful.
No, but if you look at, like, it's not new. Like, this is not a new bathroom. This is not a new exterior. This is not a new kitchen. This is dated. This is our point with rental apartments in Portugal. What you really have to understand with rental apartments here is that you need to find the good deal, because it doesn't mean that you can't find decent rentals at a good price.
But like with anything else that we talked about earlier, you have to go search for the good prices in the good places, because it's not easy. And Lisbon is probably the best example of the variation between good and bad and expensive and cheap.
Yeah.
Because there are no patterns to explain this in Lisbon, other than the owner just do this and then make a price.
If you want to go the cheapest you can in Lisbon, for example, here's a 15 square meter studio.
And it's located in our old neighborhood, Ajuda.
Which is a cheaper area.
Yeah.
But I mean, 15 square meters and €600. I mean,
It's pretty nice. I mean,
it's expensive, Amalia.
It's very expensive, but it's still a pretty nice place if you are studying abroad. But still,
you can do it cheap. That's the point. But let's get to, like, so here is an apartment that is more like what we would look for. This is still a small T2, 2-bedroom, 90 square meters for €3,000.
And we lived in a 90 square meters apartment when we first moved to Lisbon, and we thought that 500 euros were a crazy amount of money back then.
Which it was, but it was the only apartment we could find at that time that was what we were looking for. Back then, you didn't find a lot of apartments. Now, in Lisbon, they're just everywhere, but they're also just insanely priced. But look at this. Now I'm going to give you an example that is egregious. 100 square meters, a T2, €5,000 for this. I mean, it's a nice apartment, but the price is just, it really doesn't make any sense. And here's another one, €6,000.
And it's not even that big, it's 130 square meters. It does have a nice balcony and everything, but it doesn't look into anything beautiful. It's crazy to me that people charge it, but also that people pay it. I think we don't really need to say it, but it's not the Portuguese people renting these apartments, because they simply can't afford it. This is crazy what these apartments cost.
But also what I think is going on here is that a lot of these landlords, they try and see, can they get away with it? Because, you know, €6,000 is not a lot for someone who's used to rental prices in New York City. For a lot of people, this is not a lot of money, but the market price is ridiculous. And here's an example of an apartment that is more, whoa, this is super beautiful.
But I will say this apartment has been on the market for a long, long time, because we looked at this for a second apartment, just dreaming, because we couldn't afford it. This is crazy amount of money, but this is beautifully made. Beautiful design. It's a big apartment. Unfortunately, half of the apartment is underground.
Yeah.
So this probably explains the price compared to the other ones. But everything here is beautiful.
It's a huge apartment. It's twice the size of the €5,000 apartment, and it's brand new, and
it's prettier.
It's in an amazing location. It has a garden, and I think this is our point. that
It makes no sense.
no matter what you go for in terms of rental apartment, it's going to be expensive. You can find one bedroom apartment for like 1,500 euros in the hubs. It's doable, but it's just going to be a small place.
Very small place,
where you
no
don't get
parking, all
that.
these things.
I think I read that Lisbon is one of the most expensive cities in Europe.
Which is crazy when you consider that the salary in Portugal is considered one of the lowest in Europe.
Yeah.
But let's talk about buying homes, because we are going to start with showing you a home or house that could be a home if you are handy. There's a huge trend with like flipping houses and we love it. So we found this amazing, dare I call it a palace set?
It's a palace.
Yeah, it's a palace.
The interesting question is that can you actually get a home in Portugal for less than 500,000 euros? And yes, you can. I think what's appealing to a lot of foreigners moving to Portugal is to buy something in the outskirts. Central Portugal, for example. This is in the middle of central Portugal. I don't know why you would live here unless you were tired of people.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere, but what you do get is a bargain. For 500,000, you get this amazing palace. It has 1,200 square meters. It needs a complete fix, I would say. You don't know what kind of surprises you'll find here, but I will say, if you are up for the task, which I actually would love to be if we had like time for it, would be to fix this house. Yeah. It's so beautiful.
And I've seen there are so many YouTubers now coming to Portugal where they're buying an old place and then they fix it up. So if you don't have 10 thumbs like me and you can actually do stuff with your hands, then I mean, this is imagine fixing this up. So if you are like us and you want something new that works, here's an example. Also in the middle of nowhere, Famalicão.
And also you get 156 square meters instead of 1,500.
Yeah. The point is you can get a new house for 500,000 euros and with a pool and everything. It works, but there's no getting around that Portugal is...
It's no longer a cheap country to settle down in.
It really has gotten expensive. We looked also at like apartments in Lisbon. Like, can you get anything for under 500k? And
you can get 50 square meters.
You can get these tiny one bedroom or studio apartments. Here's one for 375,000 euros.
It looks beautiful. It's very cute, but it's still crazy expensive if you ask me.
It's just so small, and I mean, I'd rather live in Famalicão than Lisbon if I had to pick between 50 square meters and a new place. So here's another apartment in Lisbon, 150 square meters, 3 times bigger, outdoor garden or terrace, 606,000 euros.
Which is not as bad.
Not terrible, you know? No. So you have to be good at deciphering and filtering out shit.
I think, again, Jon said it before, I said it earlier, it's about really spending time and picking out the right place for you. Living in Portugal is still cheaper than some of the other European countries, but it has lost its brand as being like a super cheap destination to live. However, you can live super cheap if you really want to.
Well, I wouldn't say super cheap.
Kinda.
I mean...
Not super cheap, but it can still be done in an affordable way.
So if you are a foreigner coming from a Western country like the US, Canada, the Nordic European countries, then yeah, it will definitely be cheaper to live in Portugal if you are okay with not living in Lisbon, in Porto. For example, I found a 3-bedroom apartment in Coimbra, which is a charming city in the middle of central Portugal.
It's a beautiful place, not too far away from the ocean, and with a lot of youngsters because it's one of the biggest student cities.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a renovated 3-bedroom apartment for around 1,000 euros. So if you are a couple, I think you can survive for 2,500 euros a month. All included.
With everything, yes.
I think the point is that it is possible to still do it a lot cheaper than what it would cost in those countries most foreigners come from. We love Portugal and this is our home.
And we won't move away just because everything is a little bit more expensive.
But we think it's important to let people understand that this is not a a cheap place to live anymore.
This was all for this video, guys, but before you leave, we would like to invite you over to our Patreon, where we do exclusive content.
Every Sunday we have a video, and this Sunday we're uploading 10 things we wish we knew before we moved to Portugal. So if you're into Portugal content and also would like to get to know us better, it would be amazing to see you there.
We're forming a little community there where we can give tips and tricks, and it's really fun to have a lot of people there.
And if you are going to Portugal just as a tourist and you're going to Lisbon or Madeira, we also have 2 super cool guides with everything you need to know in an app in your hand, so you can walk around and be like, wow, thanks so much to Stay Classy that I know everything I need to know about Lisbon and Madeira.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. All the links are in the description, so you can go check it out. And maybe we'll see you on Patreon.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.